Hello. Hi, everyone. This is our second lesson. We would be discussing about the second assessment objective of the unit that we are talking about. Let me quickly share the screen here. So the unit that we are talking is elasticity. Today, we are going to talk about what is elasticity. We are going to understand certain concepts related to elasticity. And we will also try to see the impact of different elasticities in a given scenario. So this itself is a little heavy. It's a little heavy topic. You might not understand it on the first go, but I would highly recommend that you please be a little more patient. Watch some online recordings, online videos of elasticity. There is an ample of content available. Just to make sure that you are going through the right content, what I'll do is that I will give you some good links of the videos, which are like really authentic. You can go through them as well. So let's get started without wasting further time. Today we are talking about elasticity of demand, and I would want you to stick to only elasticity of demand and don't go too much into elasticity of supply. In my last lesson, a quick recall what we have done is what is demand and supply. I told you that in this diagram, we will show quantity on this axis and price on this axis. The law of demand says that as the price increases, the demand decreases. So the demand curve looks like this. On the other hand, as the price increases, the supply increases, the quantity of supply increases, and thus the graph looks like this. This is demand and supply graph. Now, when I say that the demand is changing, there is another thing that is important. If I change the price by 1%, 1% change in price, how much percent will I see the change in demand? Will it be 1%? Will it be 2%? Will it be 5%? Okay. This proportion of change in demand gives us a very important concept. Let's say that 1% change in price leads to 5% change in demand. And it can be any direction. So if there is an increase in price, 1% increase in price will lead to 5% drop in demand. This is called response of demand to the price. And this response of demand to the price is actually called as elasticity of demand. What is elasticity of demand? It is the responsiveness of demand to the changing price. If I'm changing price, how quick the demand is responding and how much is it responding? Is it a slight change in the demand or is it an exorbitant change in demand? That is called as elasticity of demand. Now I'm introducing two words to you. If I say elastic, any good can have a range of elasticities. First, let me it can be perfectly elastic or it can be perfectly inelastic. Perfectly elastic means even a slightest change in price and it will go haywire. The demand will go haywire. On the other hand, perfectly inelastic means doesn't matter how much force you put on prices, the demand will not move. It will remain the same. So technically, I always explain elasticity with any elastic product you have at home. So what elasticity of demand is, imagine my hands are a force of price. Okay, so if I'm applying the force of price and this band is actually a demand, it is changing itself. Okay, so if I'm applying the force of price, that's my hands, and it is leading to a change in demand, this is elasticity. It is called as an elastic demand. On the other hand, if I have demand and doesn't matter how much I apply the force of price, the demand remains constant. This is called as inelastic demand. Okay, so another two words that we have heard here is perfectly elastic, perfectly inelastic. Then we say relatively elastic and relatively inelastic. It moves, but not haywire, but it does move. While it doesn't move much, but it does move a little bit. And in between, we call something as unitary elastic. Okay, this is just to introduce the words to you. Now let us get more deeper into this formula. Elasticity of demand. Elasticity of demand is calculated with this formula. Percentage change, this triangle is called as change. Percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price. Now you're going to use this formula to attempt your all the questions that I have given you in your assignment brief. So let me quickly show you the questions that I've given you. Yeah. This is going to be your task 2, in which I have given you all these uh, uh, numericals to solve. Now, what is this? The price of a product increases by 10% and the quantity demanded decreases by 15%. What is the elasticity of demand? So simply you have to use this formula and all the questions will be solved on this. But let us go a little deeper into this formula. What do we mean by percentage change in quantity demanded upon percentage change in price? So let us say that the price of a product increases from $10 to $20. And the quantity which was demanded in the market was 100 earlier. Now it became 150. Okay, so this is the old price and old demand. This is the new price and new demand. Okay, this is the new price, new demand, old price, old demand. Now, how do we calculate the percentage change in quantity demanded? The formula is old demand minus new demand divided by new demand. Okay, this will give you percentage change in quantity demanded. Similarly, old price minus new price divided by new price. This will give you percentage change in price. Once you have done this, remember one thing, that the answer that you will get here will be in negative form. It will be in negative form. Why will it be in a negative form? It is not the negative value. It is the relationship between the price and quantity demanded. And if you remember from the last lesson, what did I tell you? There is a negative relationship between the two. If the price increases, demand decreases. If the price decreases, demand increases. So since these two always move in the opposite direction, this negative sign shows the direction and not the value. Okay, what do you mean by direction, not the value? So let's say that some answer is -2. I'm not going to read it as -2 in numerical term. That means -2 is less than 1. What I'm going to do here is that I'm going to just consider 2 right now and forget the negative sign, because this is just direction. And then I'm going to find out what is the value of 2 in terms of elasticity. Okay, so when I calculate the value of elasticity, I don't consider the negative sign. Okay, how about I give you a minute quickly? You can just solve this question that I've just given you. The price increases from $10 to $20. The quantity demanded increases from 100 to 150. And let me know, what do you get in terms of your answers? What is the price elasticity of demand? Usually we write it like this, price elasticity of demand. Okay. You can pause the video and just quickly solve it and move ahead. Now, elasticity of demand can have values. Okay. What kind of values do we find in elasticity? I'll let you know here. There is a band of values that are possible in the elasticity of demand. At the center, the value would be 1. Okay. At this corner, the value would be infinity. And on the rightmost corner, the value would be 0. Okay. Any value between 1 and 0, any value that has 0.2 or 0.10 or 0.5, all of these values will be considered on the right-hand side. And on the left-hand side, any value which would be like 2 or 5 or 10, this is usually rare. You don't get such high values because such products are not really available in the market. This is towards the left-hand side. Now, what does that mean? It means if the value of price elasticity of demand, which you have calculated with the help of this formula, after the whole formula, whatever you get is price elasticity of demand. If the value is 1, we call it as unitary elastic. We call it as unitary elastic. What does that mean? It means for 1% change in price, the quantity demanded is changes by 1%. 1% change in price, quantity demanded changes by 1%. So they both are same. The value would be 1. Now look here. What do you mean by 0? For 1% increase in price, there is 0% change in demand. The demand does not change. For 1% increase in price or decrease in price, the quantity demanded does not change. 0% change in quantity demanded. What does that mean? That means the elasticity is perfectly inelastic. The demand will remain same. Now I'll tell you some examples. What kind of examples can I give? Imagine that you go to buy salt in the market and you realize that there is a heavy discount on salt. Okay, the prices have come down. Really highly discounted salt. Do you start eating extra salt? Do you start putting like extra salt in your food? Do you just make it like completely sour? No. So does it matter? The price is extremely low. People would still buy the same quantity of salt because that's what they need. And that quantity will remain fixed. Does not matter how much the prices are changing. On the other hand, if the prices are increasing, let's say the salt becomes just the double the price, you stop eating salt. No, it's a necessity. You will eat salt. And even if it increases double the price, it doesn't hurt you in many ways because it is really cheap. This product is cheap. And hence, you will not stop using salt in your food. So such products are extremely unique. Salt is one of the examples. Sometimes even, petrol is considered as perfectly inelastic because it is such a necessity. Even if it is expensive, you have to use petrol, you have to use gas in your cars. But to some extent, if it becomes cheap, you might go for an extra trip because, petrol is cheap, the gas is cheap, and you can use it easily. So there are very few goods in this world which can be considered as perfectly elastic and perfectly inelastic because even after some point of time, if I increase the prices of salt way too much, you might eat less salt. Okay. Now, coming to an example of infinity, which means for 1% change in price, or let's say increase in price, the demand decreases infinity. Like there is no limit to it. Similarly, for 1% decrease in price, the demand increases to infinity. There is no limit to the demand. Does it happen in real world? No, it doesn't happen. So perfectly inelastic demand does not exist in the market. You will not find such product in the market. But why do we have it in theories? In order to understand the limits of elasticity of demand and implication of these limits in the decision making. But does it happen in the real world? No. What happens in the real world is everything in between these two limits. So in between infinity and zero, whatever values we have is what we find in the real world. Let's see what are those. Unitary elastic, I have already told you. 1% increase in price will lead to 1% drop in demand. Okay, so both of them equal. Here, let's see. 1% increase in price will drop the demand by only 0.5%. By only 0.5%. So the demand is responding, but slower, like less than the response in price. So price was 1%, the drop is only 5%, 0.5%. So yes, the demand is responding, but towards inelastic. So we call these kind of demands as relatively inelastic. Relatively inelastic. That demand is responding, but less, slower than the price. Let's come on this side of the graph. Imagine 5. So 1% increase in price drops the demand by 5%. Just I applied a tiny little force of 1% and the demand responded 5%. Highly elastic. Okay, we call it as relatively elastic. Okay. There are people also sometimes use word like highly elastic, like towards this side it will be called as highly elastic. Anything after 5 is called as highly elastic. And highly inelastic, I would request you to elastic use relative word more than the highly word, because this is more formal. Okay, so this is elasticity of demand, price elasticity of demand, how demand responds to prices. Now coming to the main question, why do we need to know all of this? What's happening here? The biggest impact of elasticity of demand is on revenue. You know what is revenue? Revenue is the price of goods into the quantity sold. Any business, when they make a product, they set a price for it and they sell certain quantity of those goods. When you multiply this, it shows how much money you have made as a business in 1 month, in 1 year, or whatever. Okay, so revenue is what? It is the money earned by selling goods or services. So price of the goods multiplied by the number of goods you have sold is revenue. Now understand, what I'm trying to tell you here is that if imagine you are a producer and the price elasticity of your product is 3%. Okay, so we usually don't write the word percent here. So the price elasticity of your product is 3. Okay, we write P here. Price elasticity of demand is 3. So you're producing a product whose price elasticity of demand is 3. You have two options. Either you can increase the price by 1%, or you can decrease the price by 1%. What are you going to do? Are you going to increase the price or are you going to decrease the price? Now, the answer here actually lies with the price elasticity of demand. Let's see. Hypothetically, if you increase the price by 1%, only 1%, the quantity sold will drop by 3%. Will my revenue increase or decrease? Read it again. Slowly read it. Think it again. I'll give you the answer later. I want you to think once. On the other hand, if I drop my price by only 1%, people will increase the demand by 3%. Will my revenue increase or decrease here? Pause the video, think over it before you see the actual answer, and I'll give you the logic as well. In the first scenario, since the quantity demanded is dropping by 3% and price is only increasing by 1%, this will lead to a loss. So your revenues will drop. On the other hand, if I'm only dropping the price by just 1% and the demand increases by 33%, that's what I want. I want my revenue to increase. Got my point? So elasticity of demand is a wonderful concept to make important decisions like should I increase the prices of my product? Should I decrease the prices of my product? And Elasticity of demand is apparently a great way of um, making important decisions in business. And also, there are multiple factors that affect the elasticity of demand. So, in this part of the lesson, I want you people to I'm going to share a link of the video in the chat box. Just go through that video whenever you have time, take a little break because this is a lot of information. Go through that video and see if you're able to understand this concept well. Okay. Now I'll take you to the book that I have shared with you. These are the notes that you already have. I'm just giving you a brief introduction. What do we mean by elasticity? Go through this entire content. It is very, very important. Here is the calculation of price elasticity of demand. There are a lot of examples given here. See, minus 0.2. So when I say minus 0.2 is the elasticity of demand, no, this is percentage. Yeah. So 0.2, if I ask you to compare it with the table that I have taught you here, forget minus because minus shows the direction. This is the value that is given in the answer. So this is relatively inelastic. And the second product has price elasticity of demand of 2. Forget minus. 2 means it is relatively elastic. Okay. Read it. The demand curve looks like this when it is perfectly inelastic. This diagram is not a part of your assignment brief. Does not mean that you are not going to read these. Please read them. They're very, very important for your general knowledge. This is a diagram for a perfectly elastic demand curve. Apply some logic. This is unit elastic. Unit elastic. I prefer making unit elastic diagram like this, exactly like this. Okay. Next is they have given some wonderful examples. You can calculate the PED, price elasticity of demand. Now, this is what I wanted to explain you. Factors affecting price elasticity of demand. So in the market, if I have a laptop and I have salt, what determines the price elasticity of demand? Which one will be elastic, which one will not be elastic? So number one, the availability and attractiveness of substitutes. If a product has a lot of substitutes, people will not accept increase in demand, increase in prices. Okay, so for example, I am selling a very local product. I live in a city wherein there are many manufacturers of cotton fabric, and I'm making cotton fabric as well. So if I increase the prices, there are substitutes available. People will quickly switch to substitutes. So my elasticity of demand will be high. Why? Because people have other options. If you increase or decrease the price, they will respond quickly because they have options. Okay. So elasticity of demand increases. Next is the relative expense of the product. Remember in the example of salt, I told you, even if I increase the prices by 100% of salt, you would still buy it because overall it is cheap. Even if it is increasing by 100%, instead of like making it 20 rupees, I make it 40 rupees. Still, it's doable because even then it is not too expensive for you. So relative expense of a product in your total salaries, the time period such as long run or short run. Sometimes, let me give you an example of pandemic. At the time of pandemic, immediately people wanted to buy sanitizers and suddenly prices went up. Why? Because they knew it. The producers knew it. There are no substitutes available. There is no other option. Even if I increase the prices, people will demand for sanitizers. And in the short run, other businesses cannot beat them. So they benefited from very heavy prices, very expensive prices. And their revenue increased. But later on, as the time passed by, many small businesses started their own sanitizer making business. And suddenly there was a better supply in the market, many substitutes available, and the elasticity of demand increased. Go through this amazing, beautiful examples given here. All of this will help you solve your um, second part of the assignment. Now, there is something called cross elasticity of demand. You can pause the video here and take a break because this is again a little heavy content. Cross elasticity says Cross elasticity says that if I have a product, like let's say I have Coke and I have Pepsi, if I change the price of this product, what will be the impact on demand of this product? Okay, I want to see the impact of demand on this product because of the change in price of something else. That is why it is called as cross elasticity. Earlier, we were talking about price of Coke and demand of Coke, but now I want to see price of Coke and demand of Pepsi. So in such a cases, if a product is perfectly, they are substitutes. That means they can replace each other in the preferences of a consumer. If I increase the prices of Coke, they become expensive. People stop buying Coke and they start buying Pepsi. So the demand for Pepsi increases. So for substitute goods, the cross elasticity of demand is positive. That means they are in the same direction. On the other hand, let us say that I give an example of cars and the tires used in cars. Okay. Okay, let me do this. Wait. Let's talk about pens and ink. The fountain pens and the ink used in the pens. If the prices of pen increases, people buy less pens because they're expensive, and hence they buy also less inks, less ink bottles. So the demand decreases. So this is a negative relationship. Any two products that show negative cross elasticity are called as complementary goods. They are called as complementary goods. Okay. What is the formula for this? The formula is percentage change in quantity demanded for product A upon percentage change in the price of product B. So these are two different products. Here are some examples of complements and substitute goods. The cross elasticity is denoted by XED. Okay, look at the formula once. I have not given you any question on cross elasticity, I guess. That's what I remember. This is important. Now, this is what is going to solve your last task. In the context of automobile industry in UK, evaluate the impact of different elasticities on the business. So there are a lot of products that I have given you here. Okay, you have to tell me what will happen if there is increase in the elasticity of demand. What will happen if there's some sort of cross elasticity of demand that is associated with it. So you have to build connection. Don't worry, I'm explaining it here, and then you can connect it with this example. Price elasticity of demand can be used to explain price variations in a market, impact of changing prices on consumer expenditure, and effect of changes in direct taxes from government income. I want you people to read it. This is a very self-explanatory paragraph. As I said, that PED helps us understand the impact of our pricing decision on the revenue. What is happening? If I'm increasing the price, what will happen to the revenue? If I'm decreasing the prices, what will happen to the revenue? All of these answers help in understanding industries better. Now, relationship between PED and total expenditure on a product. As an individual, if your demand is extremely inelastic, for example, habit-forming products like cigarettes and alcohol, doesn't matter how much the price is increasing, you will still buy it. You will end up spending more on it if the prices increase. So the total expenditure of individuals increases on those products which are price inelastic. Okay. Now, I want you people to go through this entire content. It's a beautiful paragraph. It's a lot of information given here, very self-explanatory. Another one that I want to explain here is income elasticity of demand. What do we mean by income elasticity of demand? Income of an individual has certain impact on demand of goods and services. So if the income of an individual is increasing, usually they start demanding more goods and services. Let's talk about televisions. For a product like television, more the income in a country, more will be the demand for um, televisions. This is thus called as a normal good. Normal good. However, there is another scenario. What is that? There are certain products, in that case, if the income is increasing, people start demanding these products less. And you know what are these products? These are inferior goods. Inferior goods means if you are now at a better position in terms of your income, you're earning better income, you will stop buying cheap brands. You will stop buying non-branded clothes, or probably you will stop buying that very cheap ice cream in the market because now you can afford something better. So inferior goods are those goods which have a negative relationship of price elasticity of demand. Negative relationship. See, this is relationship, the direction. So inferior goods have negative relationship between price elasticity of demand, and normal goods have positive relationship in case of income elasticity of demand. Okay. So for now, I want you people to read the entire chapter, go through it. Cross elasticity, I've already explained you. Income elasticities, there are good examples. What are luxury goods? What are inferior goods and normal goods? Go through all of them. Come back to me if you have any doubts. Leave me a personal message. So this is our lesson number 2. Lesson 2 will help you solve task 2 and everything related to income elasticities and all elasticities. The last chapter or the last topic of this assignment is on the role of government in the macro economy. So macroeconomic objectives and monetary policy and fiscal policy, all of this has been covered once, but I'm going to cover it again in a lesson, and I'll share some videos with you. In the chat box, look out for more videos related to elasticities of demand. With that, thank you very much. I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.